And if you want to talk about psychiatry, go ahead. I don't really know much about psychiatry other than people do it a lot. And I think sometimes it can be a bit of a con, maybe, but other than that, I don't know.
Right. Okay. So on psychiatric drug industry is it's like a $330 billion industry, and that was in 2008 when they made this documentary. So we know it started out from Sigmund Freud in the late 19th century to early 20th century, but was picked up and it was picked up by his nephew Edward Bernays, who literally wrote the book on propaganda. And the military MK Ultra projects used mind control.
Can I just say that I just want to say that I watched a podcast not too long ago with Alex Jones on it, and Alex Jones said that he as a child he was in the MK Ultra program. So when
you're talking about Freud's nephew there, he was the one who basically where they changed the word. They used to use the word propaganda, but he was the one who changed it to PR, public relations. And the first thing that he did was when they were encouraging women to smoke. They realized that not many women smoked and it was frowned upon. So he was the one, he organized an event in New York, I think it was, and he got all these women who would look like these debutantes who were standing, you know, and the whole idea was like sort of, women are independent. Look at how these women are taking control of their lives. And it was all just to sell them cigarettes, you know. But it was that was how because propaganda was associated with the Stalinist era. So they changed that terminology from propaganda to public relations.
James Corbett did a really excellent thing on Edward Bernays, and he also changed the American breakfast, because before they used to have like English breakfast kind of thing, like farm animals and stuff, and he changed their diet to cereal and stuff like that. This psychiatry thing was also linked with mind control and torture by the Nazi Dr. Mengele. He was like a psychologist. And they did things like electric shock treatment. Well, when I was 14, I saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. And he was like a kind of a misfit in society. He was a gambler, and he didn't pay his taxes, and he was just sort of a nuisance so they couldn't deal with him. So they put him in a psychiatric ward along with this Native American chief who they couldn't handle as well. They didn't fit into society, and they used to drug them. Now, I even suspect that my own grandfather, on my mother's side, my granddad Parker, I think he had electric shock treatment, and I think my auntie Peggy on my mum's side, on my dad's side, had this treatment as well. They'll drug you with the same drug that they use to execute people with, but they don't kill you. They keep your heart beating, and they put like 400 volts through. And what they say they're doing is that they're resetting. It's just a reset, right? They're saying, and they're destroying lots of the brain, so that there's less problems. So it's simpler, less problems,
less resistance.
Less resistance. Yeah, but the interesting thing about this psychiatry thing is that in 1967 there was a psychiatrist convention in Puerto Rico, similar to the Jekyll Island Convention when the bankers were conspiring to take over the Federal Reserve. This was the psychiatrists and the marketing people, and the statement they came out with after that meeting was, we see a developing potential for nearly total control of human status, mental functioning, and will to act. So the aim was to bring in a range of drugs by 2000. You know, it's interesting they got this target of 2000 that could regulate every aspect of human behavior. They came along with these brands such as Ritalin, Prozac, Zoloft, Adderall, Lexapro.
So what's your hypothesis in relation to this then, Chris? Because obviously some of this is going on still. So are you suggesting potentially we're getting microdosed or something?
Some 100 million Americans on these, psychotropic drugs,
Yeah.
And this is like, this is something which is completely devoid of science. It's like there's no physical test. And when they make these drugs, they don't know the results until it like hits the market.
So it's another example of the public being tested upon, basically. Is that what you're
saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So this meeting was like, you know, a match made in heaven, you know, or hell, should I say? You know, the so-called scientists and marketing people, they ramped up the classifications in a book called the DSM Manual, Diagnostic Statistical Manual. So they would group a list of symptoms such as social anxiety, speaking to people, feeling happy, feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling anxious, and put a label on it and sell it as a drug. And then the FDA would stack the panel with the pharmaceutical directors, and they would all literally make a mass killing every time they approved a drug. So the pharmaceutical companies would pay the FDA like $400,000. I think today it's like $1 million per application to fast track them through with as little as like 4 weeks. And then they started doing in schools. There was a schools program. The psychiatrists would go into school, interview children, and say, you know, what do you ask them questions like, you know, do you ever feel very happy or feel very sad? And prescribe them drugs. These drugs would be for life. So they've made billions and billions, and this is how they've managed to finance taking control of the media, taking control of the governments, this is where a big bulk of the cabal's wealth has come from, you know, plus the mortgages and all that stuff and everything. So, and this is how they've been taking over people's minds, because they want to control every aspect of people's behavior. Now, a lot of these drugs, when they did that documentary, there was 375 of them, and they're cracking them out all the time. And when they get to the end of their like patented life, they're rebranding them not just as so-called mental health drugs, but as like general like other kind of drugs. For example, cure for smoking, and another one became a cure for
smoking.
For smoking. You need to get your sound working, right? Yeah.
It's this signal, man. I'm trying to interpret a cure for stalking. Now, that would be worth more.
Well, they're also saying like cures. They're now making them cures for like obesity, alcoholism, gambling, hot flushes. I don't think that'll affect any of you guys. Itching, shivering. Yeah. No. Yeah. So we're being poisoned, and these compounds are like fluoride kind of compounds, not just so, you know, the bit of fluoride we get in the water is one thing, but these are like compounds that they're taking daily for the rest of their life. This is why they can't think for themselves anymore. They've got to follow what they're told by the media and by their leaders and everything. So this is the basis for how they're able to bring in this mass vaccination, this 5G. So anyway, that's my rant over.
All right. Well, cool, man. I mean, there is some synchronicities there, or similarities, let's say.